Okay, well, thank you all for coming. My name is Marie Brown. I'm with Women Against Military Madness and the Twin City Peace Campaign. And I'm going to send a clipboard around. I know several of you, I should step by this too. Several of you have already signed it, but this is our petition to ban nuclear weapons. One of the advantages of being the MC is you can push your own projects. So I am going to pass around this petition. Please don't sign it if you've already signed it. Don, can I hand it to you? And I'm also going to ask you to sign cards to Amy Klobuchar and to Tina Smith, asking them also to support the treaty to ban nuclear weapons. As many of you know, we have a treaty now. It's put together by 122 countries. Well, it's not ratified yet. There are, I didn't look today, but there were like 73 countries who had signed and 23 who had ratified. And we need 50 to ratify, but we expect those who have signed to ratify. They just have to get their Congress or their parliament or whatever they happen to have to ratify it. So, and Don, can I ask you to pass these around too?
Yeah.
So thank you very much. If you signed the cards before, sign them again because we're doing a second round. We sent 2,000 cards to Klobuchar and to Frank and a couple of years ago. And we'll just send them another 2,000. Now of course we have a new senator, so. And it will be nice for Klobuchar to hear from us while she's running for president. Okay. And if you are not a member of WAM, we'd like you to consider becoming a member. We hope you'll pick up a membership form. They're in the back. And what you'll get if you become a member is you will get a newsletter, weekly emails that includes the events of all the different WAM committees, plus activities of interest of other groups in the community. We have a website at womenagainstmilitarymadness.org where you can access more information on WAM. And we are offering new memberships for half price tonight. $20, what a deal. So if you're not a member, consider joining. I also want to encourage you to check out the flyers in the back. We have a lot of upcoming events that I'm not announcing tonight because you can find flyers back there. And if you have an announcement where we don't have a flyer, please give it to me, and after Sami has spoken, I will make those announcements too. And we will do that in between the Q&A, in between when Sami speaks and the Q&A. March 19th of this year marks 16 years since the beginning of the second U.S. war on Iraq. An illegal and immoral war which resulted in the deaths of more than 4,000 Americans and more than 1 million Iraqis. A war that has stolen the future of at least 2 generations of young people in Iraq. During the months leading up to the beginning of the war, the Bush administration spun a web of deceit about Iraq, about weapons of mass destruction, about aluminum tubes, about biological and chemical weapons, about Iraq's connections with Al-Qaeda and 9/11, about Iraq being a threat to the U.S. and to its neighbors. They spun their web of deceit so that they could get the Congress and the American people to support an illegal and immoral war of aggression against the people of Iraq. A war which most Americans now know was not about freedom or democracy, but was about control of the resources in the Middle East. For years, our government deceived the American people about what was actually happening on the ground in Iraq and the true costs of this war. Costs which are estimated to be above $3 trillion. I think now it's above $4 trillion. This was Joseph Stiglitz' estimate, the $3 trillion, several years ago. Costs which will be borne by our children and our grandchildren. Iraq is a perfect example of how the leadership of this country moves the citizens toward believing that there is a threat to our security and our only option is to go to war. The U.S. literally destroyed Iraq. And then we saw another tragedy unfold in that country, which was a direct result of the 2003 U.S. invasion. It was the rise of ISIS, and the death and destruction in the ensuing years. And our government, once again, got involved militarily, first sending advisors and weapons to the country already glutted with weapons, and later more troops. Then came the bombing of Libya, Yemen, and Syria, continued war in Afghanistan and Pakistan, threats to Iran and North Korea. How are we ever going to stop this? This is just endless. I don't claim to have any answers, but one thing is clear to me. Those who oppose war must keep on keeping on, even in the face of what sometimes looks very, very dismal. Tonight we are fortunate to have with us a person who keeps on keeping on in the face of in the face of a situation which many would call hopeless. Sami Rasouli. Sami is an Iraqi-American who has been living in Najaf since late 2004. Someone who has come back each year to bring us the true face of war, to help keep us informed about what is really going on in Iraq and the Middle East, and to build bridges between his two countries, Iraq and the United States. He will talk about Iraq today and a creative new program, the Muslim Peacemaker Teams, English for Reconciliation. And he'll also make some connections with Iran, I hope. Sami?
Yay, thanks.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Last time I was here, I think 2 years ago, in this building, and my youngest son, Tariq, was here too. So he departed us last December without saying goodbye. Losing Tariq or losing children in Iraq since 2003, something became a daily matter for Iraqis. In his last trip to UK, Trump visited the Queen, and he goes, "Hey, tell me, how do you run so beautiful political system in your country?" She goes, "Well, you have to have intelligent people around you." And he told her, "Please tell me how." She rang the bell, and Theresa May is there. "Hey, Theresa, I have a question for you." "Yes, Your Majesty, the Queen." "Well, your parents have a child. It's not your brother. It's not your sister. Who is the child?" And right away she said, "It's me." She looked at Trump and told him, "See, you have people like her running your government." So Trump, at his end of the visit, right away when he arrived Washington, rang the bell, and Mr. Pence is there. "Hey, Pence, your parents gave birth to a child. It's not you. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not your brother. It's not your sister. Who is this child is?" Thought about it. I told him, "Sure, I'll bring you the answer right away." He went and met his cabinet. Nobody could bring the answer. He felt a little bit hungry, went to the cafeteria, saw Hillary Clinton sitting somewhere there in the corner, and he came to her and asked her the question. And she goes, "That's me." So he ran and went to Trump and told, hey, she is Hillary Clinton. And Trump looked at him, he said, you stupid, it is Theresa May. So, this is how our government in the US is run. Do you hear me? No.
Move it this,
Now?
away from that mic, yeah.
Thank you, Susu. Good to see you. If you ask anybody in Iraq, what do you think of Trump and his government? How the US is running the country? They really tell you, we are sorry to see the US in this bad shape. At the third millennium, where are the intelligent people of the US? How could they allow? They deserve better. But the problem is, if you ask them, the next election will come. What do you think? Who's going to win? And they go, Trump again. Why? Because they learned their lesson. The lesson is George Bush Jr. won the election in 2000, then 2004 got re-elected again after invading Iraq. So where are these lessons that we're learning? Last Friday, eventually, wasn't a surprise to me, but lots of people go, Israel really involved in Iraq or in Middle East? So, senior official here in this government eventually admitting that Israel has bombed Iraq, not only last Monday, but since July 19. And so-called depot of Iranian weapon were bombed. Israel is always there. Israel trained the US Army how to torture Iraqis in Abu Ghraib, if you remember. That's way, way back. Israel in 1981, the first time officially and openly bombed Iraq. Well, that was so-called the nuclear reactor that Iraqis needed it for using it as a fuel source. That was bombed since then. But also remember, right after the invasion, 735 Iraqi scientists got murdered by Mossad. Mossad is the Israeli secret intelligence service, that ISIS, Israeli secret intelligence service. Remember, it's ISIS. ISIS was manufactured by Mossad in Israel and in this country. Right now we hear in the news ISIS is getting its strength in Syria and Iraq. How come? We have 12 US bases, military bases in Iraq still. They were built after 2003 and is still there acting. Last Christmas, I was heading from Najaf to Erbil. I couldn't get a flight from Najaf. I had to go driving about 2.5 hours to Baghdad. And from Baghdad, I had to take my flight to Erbil to meet Professor Sam Richards, sociologist of Pennsylvania State University. He was there with his wife, Lori. This guy is so active in peacemaking, connecting his students with other, about hundreds of schools across the world. Among them, my English Institute, I'll talk about it. So I had to meet him to consult with him and discuss other projects to work together, but I couldn't fly. It took me, they canceled the flight, and eventually I had to stay at the airport 26 hours straight. No food, no sleep, nothing. Then later we learned that Trump was in the country. So they have to shut down the whole space, airspace, and the electricity. We were in darkness at the airport. No electricity because he ordered that. He was so scared to death not to be in Iraq, but his two conditions, to shut down the airspace in Iraq and also get it dark so nobody knows about his trip. His trip was announced three days later. So this is how the life in Iraq affected. Reports by Lancet Studies, John Hopkins Universities, this is during the war and after the war. More than 2 million people died and millions of those injured. Besides, of course, the US troops who lost their lives, more than 4,500. The Human Rights Watch latest report, and this is what they registered, what they have facts in hand, according to their data system, not the Iraqi data system. We don't have data system in Iraq. If you go to Google and ask Google about the economy or the education or the health condition in Iraq, you will not get answer. You find all other countries in the world, but no Iraq. Why? Because there is no a data system intact due to lostness. The Iraq state is no state. So according to this report, it says there are 3,400,000 refugees distributed, Iraqi refugees distributed in 64 countries around the world. There are 4,100,000 internal displaced Iraqi people within the country. 1,700,000 they live in camps. The others, they know some relatives, some friends, and there are some buildings evacuated for them, like schools and mosques. But those who still live in camps in their countries, but they live in camps, due to, of course, as you know, ISIS and other violent organizations. $5,600,000 orphans. Their ages between 1 month and 17 years. Considered children. I'm an orphan too, but I'm not counted. 2 million widows. And their ages between 15 and 52. 6 million Iraqis don't write, illiterate, or read. They cannot. And they are concentrated in the area, those area historically known, one of the cradle of civilizations, cities, Basra, like Basra, Baghdad, Najaf, Wasit, Al-Anbar, all those like at the top of the list. The unemployment is 31%. Also in Al-Anbar, Al-Muthanna, Diyala, Babel. Then comes Baghdad, Karbala, and Nainawa, Mosul, at the top of the list. 35% the poverty line. That's a lot. Iraq is one of the richest countries in the area, and I mean, do the amount of oil that Iraq produces and sells. So between 2003 until 2006, the income of the oil was $1 trillion, but we don't see it. No signs of having the country rebuilt. No signs of having this 35% of the poverty line at least improved. Still in Iraq, we have schools that built out of mud. Those who run the country signed documents with Mr. Bremer, if you recall, the civil administrator after Saddam, who replaced Saddam when the change happened. They signed documents to be adhered to the US agenda. In exchange, they were assigned as the government of Iraq, the government representatives, to run the country and do whatever with that income, a huge income of the oil. Nobody asked. The most important thing, people, of course, dies, get sick. The country is still, when you go, it's one of the it's worse than third world countries. But the important thing for the US, those governors in Iraq, across the country, they should be adhered. What the US tell them, what Trump tell them, they do. That's the deal. The list goes on. And the pain continues. Let me stop here and tell you more about the Israeli involvement, not in Iraq only. And this is Mahal Khatib, the former minister of Jordan, minister of tourism and antiquities. She was dismissed. She was fired last month because the Israeli didn't like her. She was watching the Israelis, tourists who come to, for example, to Petra in Jordan. She watched them and her system, her people in the ministry, buried some items from brass and other metal with Hebrew scripts on them. Bury them in Petra. In other places, to claim that once they were there, even for 2 nights, but they own that land. She spoke about it openly. And she said, when they come here, they just leave their shit. They leave, yeah, but they don't spend 1 penny. So what she did, she raised the fees to visit these places. They didn't like her, they complained according to the Jordanian-Israeli peace agreement. Eventually she was fired. I've been talking about the Israeli involvement in Iraq for years. And Americans, for them, it's no news, or Sami maybe is making those stories up. And probably Sami will be accused being anti-Semitic, but Arabs are Semitic. We are Semitic. The Jews are our brothers, cousins. No problem, but the problem with Zionists, the Zionists, they are creating all these trouble in Middle East. And if you go back 2006, when Israel attacked Lebanon in the middle of the war, at that time, the secretary of the country, the State Department, was Condoleezza Rice. She visited Israel, and at that time was Yehuda Elmert, the prime minister. She stood next to him and she announced that the beginning of the campaign of the US to create a chaotic situation or something creative chaos. Yeah, creative chaos in Middle East, and that's what's happening now. Creative chaos for the Israelis, not creative for us. For us is death, blood, and instability in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen, Iraq, of course, and other countries will follow. Iran now is the target, and believe me, it will happen. It will happen. So we need to change policies. It doesn't matter. Trump will win or not. He came up with this so-called deal of the century. The deal of the century will take us nowhere. He should, giving Jerusalem as a permanent capital to Israel, that was the deal of the century. Nothing beside that. Nothing. But for him, maybe for the Israelis. But this will continue. The struggle will continue. The pain and the bad news will continue to come from Middle East. My friend Bill asked me, are you still saying today after better than tomorrow, Sami, in Iraq? I told him, until the attack, the Israeli attack, latest Israeli attack, there was some stability. No explosions in the streets, in the buildings. After the war in Mosul was over, since then, there was kind of stability. But remember, when there is stability, there will be growth, will be rebuilt, people will have some break and do something. But it looks like it's not going to continue because the Arab Muslim jinni need to be inside the bottle. Anytime the head comes out of the jinni, there is an Israeli bombing, and that's under the watch of the US. 12 military bases are there. They make sure this instability in Iraq continue. So the creative chaos is a creative for, do you remember the Arab Spring? It's not spring for the Arabs for the Israelis, but for the Arabs is death and endless pain. And in the midst of this chaotic situation, drop in the ocean, that's what we consider, but this is our survival. I cannot continue to live without doing something. And this survival, the English for Reconciliation, that I've been doing it for the last 2 years. MPT is offering an opportunity to Americans to come and visit 1 month to cover all your expenses, housing provided, food, and transportation. All you need, just buy your tickets and come in, and we welcome you. The last visitor was from Penn State, Pennsylvania, Rafael Prado. His ancestors Spanish, but he was great. He looks like Iraqi, so he melted in quickly, no problem. As far as security, he loved it. He stayed 30 months. Before him, Layla Hussein was there. She's a daughter of a dear friend of mine. She was last year sitting at St. John of Arc in a meeting I talked to.
St. Albert.
St. John? Not St. John's?
No. It's okay, just me.
Yeah. I thought in the basement, yeah. St. Albert?
Yeah.
Okay. And she stood and said, my father from Iraq, I didn't know her. But when she named her father, Furat means Euphrates, and oh, what's the last name again? She said, Furat Hussein. Oh, this is my friend. So anyway, after a few months, she came and spent 3 months. Before Layla, Katie Strobel out of Wisconsin, City Star, or Star City, Wisconsin. She came 3 times. She came the first time, beginning of 2018. She loved it. She stayed. She was supposed to stay 1 month, but she said stayed 2 months. Then she came right after that, stayed 3 months, and the third trip 3 months too. And people, couple from Brainerd, couple from, anyway, 18 of them so far, all they came within the last 2 years and enjoyed. By the way, until this moment, no one from the peace community of Minneapolis or my friends here made it, but some of them made it, like my friend Steve, and other 7, Kathy McKay and John Hahn. That was a trip, they made it early on in 2012. There was no project, but there was exchange of the Sister City program. We still doing both, but the problem is since Trump came and put Iraq on the ban list, then he removed Iraq, but still Iraqis cannot come easy as before. It's very hard. I met the ambassador. Now he's not there anymore. Somebody else replaced him. So that ambassador explained to me, he said, Sami, it's true that Iraq was removed from the ban list, but the instruction that we keep receiving every day, Muslims are still banned, and Iraqis are only allowed to come out of 100 applicants, only 3. And those 3 should be meeting our standards. Means maybe there are none out of their standards, so nobody goes. And then I asked him, if we compare Iraqis and Swedish, he said the opposite. We may prevent 3 Swedish from Iraq ancestors, like originally they are from Iraq, but the other 97 will be allowed to go. So this is the comparison. Then I told him, you keep saying you don't allow Muslims, Saudis are easy getting the visa, and you provide 10 years. The visa, their visa is 10 years. I know that because I visit the GLI school in St. Paul, the Global Language School, something institute. So they tell us about 60% of their students are Saudis. 2 from Brazil, 1 from Iran, 1 from Iran, not directly from Iran. This Iranian probably lives in London and comes for study at their school. Yeah, but 60% Saudis. So, and remember, the hijackers of 9/11, they were, I don't know, all of them 19, plus 1 from Minnesota, supposed to be that guy, which our friend Raleigh caught him, but they didn't pay any attention to. What's her name? First name? Colleen, yes, Colleen Raleigh, but they didn't, and she has to leave her job because she saw the truth. So 12 or 15 of those hijackers are Saudis, but we go and invade Iraq. Anyway, again about the English for Reconciliation program, please, if you are interested, or if you know somebody interested to travel, have a free vacation, almost free. Yeah. Write me an email, samirasuli@gmail.com. That's easy. And I thank you.
We're going to give Sami a little break. We always take up a collection at these events, of course. When Sami comes in, like Kathy Kelly, the money that we raise all goes to him and the projects that the Muslim Peacemaker teams have in Iraq. They have some other projects too, but I know the main one they're working on right now is English for Reconciliation. So I hope you, and the checks are to be made out to the Twin City Peace Campaign, TCPC. So anyway, we appreciate whatever you can give. It helps to pay for his travel here and for the programs over there, and it helps to, if they supplement like an American that comes, a student or somebody, it's used for that sort of thing. So it's, and also they have projects, they have a bookstore project, they have Trees for Peace, and several other projects, a water project, several other things that they've been working on over the years, so.
I should mention also, out of this contribution, we were able to pay for 3 visitors. They call me, they say, Sami, we are really interested. We love to come, but we cannot buy tickets. So we provided for 3 of the 18 air tickets. So don't hesitate to tell us if you cannot make the trip and pay for it. We will raise funds like this to help you out.
Okay, yeah, when Sami says transportation, he means transportation, he said when transportation is paid for. He doesn't mean the ticket to and from Iraq. He means transportation within the country.
Within the country.
Yeah, so once you arrive, everything is paid for.
Yeah, we take the visitors to show them Babylon, show them Baghdad, and also the marches in the Al-Ahwal, in the south. So we take them to different places at the weekends. It's really fun. So far, our visitors, I mean, I have in the back, if you see this, this is information about the project. And also there are some names and emails you can contact the visitors. You can. We did some editing to this, some change, yeah, like the schedule of the school where you're going to teach and so on, because we moved to a new location. Yes. And we have.
We also have the pamphlet with the application in it. There's a few back there. I kept some up here. If you are interested in going, grab one of these. And also that pamphlet, the other one is 8 pages, and so I only made a couple of those. I just want to say I had meant to bring Sammy's calendar with me. And I was going to put it up on the wall, but it's one of the things I didn't get done before I left home. So I'll just tell you where he's going to be, just in case you have friends, and you let them know that he's going to be in these places. He's going to be in Rochester. I'm not going to give you the dates because you can find them on the website, the WAM website. He'll be in Rochester a couple days. He'll be in Red Wing, Marshall, St. Cloud, Brainerd, Grand Rapids, and Luck, Wisconsin, and he'll also be in St. Paul at the East Side Library on the 28th. So if you have friends, 27th. So if you have friends locally and you think they might want to hear Sami, that's another opportunity to do that. Okay, well, I think we are ready for the Q&A. And now you can ask all the questions that you have been dying to ask Sami.
Thank you.
Yes, right.
So the relations between the Iraqi, Sunni, and the Shiites and the Kurds were exacerbated when the invasion.
Yeah.
How are things going on now?
Yeah, since 2003, people learned about the sects in Iraq, mainly Sunni and Shia. And when it comes to Kurds and Arabs, actually that's not sects, but ethnic. So mainly the Kurds are living in the north, while south of Kirkuk and go down, that's Arabs. Kirkuk is a unique city that consists of many ethnicities. I really didn't know that my wife was Sunni. We were married for years and have kids. I didn't know until, okay, main difference between Sunni and Shia, when we pray the same thing, except the Sunnis, they cross their hands when they stand, while the Shia, they just lay them on their sides. That's the main thing. Now, I really didn't pay attention, and some Shia do this only when they take pictures. Mostly politicians. Yeah, they stand. Everybody, when take picture, goes like this. Now my friend Joe is Sunni. Look at him, he's crossing his hand. So, nothing. But when the fight intensified between Shia and Sunnis, when they believed that a Shia mosque was attacked by Sunnis and a Sunni mosque was attacked by Shia people. But actually now it's clear. Israeli drones are attacking the weapon depot, and US is talking about it, the officials. And Israel, Netanyahu, also admitted that. But at that time when I was talking, drones were doing that. Not the Shia, not the Sunnis. drones. You don't hear them, you don't see them, they just drop them. And people keep guessing. Because Iraqis has no way to see, to hear, or to know. Because the Iraqis are no more, not anymore in control of the airspace, sea, or land. Only the US and the Israelis. So, Sunnis and Shia, I mean, why before Saddam's regime you didn't learn about them? There was no news for these sects that existed. And by the way, we call that area not only Palestine as Holy Land, the whole Middle East, Holy Land. Why? Because they could manage how to live together without violence. Peacefully, they managed to, that's the holiness comes from. It's not holy because Mecca there or Masjid al-Aqsa Mosque there, no, because the quality of the people. And when you come to Iraq, to MPT program, English for Reconciliation, you will see that holiness, you will feel it, and your life will change. Believe me, I guarantee you. I'll give you your money back. Yeah. Yes, next. Sure.
How is the life, the daily life in Iraq, families, electricity, water?
Everything is fine, but in the summer, the heat intensifies because of the electricity interruption. The country, by its own people, not the government, is expanding and building more houses. People are increasing the birth in Iraq almost without control. So lots of kids are born, and many families expanded. And what's most of my guests, they say, Sami, we never seen such a beautiful society strength among a single family. Because kids grow and become more than 18, they don't kick them out of there. They stay there, and when they get married, they only, like the parents, they only need to build one more room for the groom and the bride. But they stay in the same house, like second floor or third floor. So the problem is the electricity. And the electricity is just like the government doesn't want to fix it because it's told. The government is told not to fix it. Iraqis had to suffer. Instability had to continue. I may tell you this and you say, wow, why? Because we've seen gigantic generators are bought by Iraqi oil money, but they are sitting in the storage, they don't put them on. And when the national grid goes off, we have in the street generator run by one of the governors, local governors, members. They run it and they charge us $100 a month, an average. While the national grid charges $20 a month, flat rate. But this $100 fluctuates. In the winter, goes down. But now, it's an average of $100. In the winter, we don't need much coolness or run the, yeah, those are our pets here. So you know, we are really against military madness. So the generators or those air conditioning, we need it in the summer, but we cannot get it because electricity goes up. And street generator cannot cover, they sell us by amps. Like I have 8 amps. I have a flat apartment to host my guest, so don't come in the summer. Yeah, the best time to come is late September until April. Avoid May, June, July, and August. But those young men keep coming. We had last year in August, Chris Romani came. And in August, he said, Sani, I love to come, but my vacation, it happens to be in August. It's okay, I stay. I want to feel how you feel, guys. And same thing with Rafael Prado, who we both left Najaf. He came on the 21st of July, and we left on the 19th. So that's the problem, electricity. Yeah. Water is bad, really bad. Water, the city running water, that causing hepatitis A and B. For those who are 35% of the people are under the poverty line. They get cancer most of the time. The cancer is rapidly increasing in Iraq. You have either to build at home a system, filtration system, water filtration, or to buy bottled water. We helped, MPT helped to build 106 those systems and for 106 schools, buildings. The building has like 2 or 3 shifts of schooling. So lots of kids are drinking potable water. And this potable water examined and maintained, those systems, we have to maintain them. There are 106, but we are able to maintain only 15. 5 of those 15 are maintained by Veteran for Peace in Ohio. Our friend Art Dorland had been doing a great job in sending money to maintain those. Each system needs $50 a month to be maintained. So they built 5 systems, and those 5 systems, each school needs 600, so 3,000 a year. But this year they said we don't have money anymore. Yeah, so we're gonna stick with only 10 systems because they need about 9,000. The money that we raise in such occasions here and from the school, we charge the students. When you come, we charge so we can pay for the local teachers' salaries and also maintain those machines and other expenses that we need. Sometimes we are in the red, but we're making it. We're making it as an evidence. I still keep coming and talking to you. Yeah. Question? Yes.
What's the expectation of visitors? People go over there. I mean, it's not just for fun. I mean, is there a mission or a purpose other than just?
Yeah, the visitors. See, we said English for reconciliation. We use education means to exchange cultures. So when you come, you learn about Iraq. You never hear about it here in the news. You never. Yeah. I have friends in Egypt. They are watching me on Facebook, what I'm doing, and they love it. They say, Sami, please come over. And I thought Egypt may be not considered a war country like Iraq, and has lots of seasides, so lots of tourism there. Maybe in Turkey goes nicely, and other places, especially when you address the American, tell them, hey, free vacation, come over for a month or more. So I have my friend here, Dina. Yeah, so also here, Abdurrahman from Egypt, and Abdurrahman probably when he decides to go back, I'll go and visit and have a school there. Yeah. So when you come, sister, McDonald, we will sell hamburger.
McDonald's hamburger.
Yes, to exchange culture. And we make you mesgoof. Mesgoof is a grilled fish on the river. Yeah, we got the fish, cut it from the back, so it open like a book. Then hang it in some studs, wooden studs, and let the fire and have it cooked from both sides. In about 20 minutes, you have the most fresh fish eaten. And my apology to the vegan and vegetarians.
Sami?
Yes.
I think part of our question is, what do you actually, like if I came, what would I actually do there in your class?
Yeah, all we do is holding conversation with Iraqis in various topics. And in exchange, like you're teaching English, because they will listen to your pronunciation. That's what we miss in Iraq. We've been taught wrong all years. But Sami is making it easy for Iraqis to hear real English. This is one. Then you will learn real Arabic if you desire. So you will attend classes where you learn Arabic. Then you're gonna eat real Arab food, and you visit some ancient sites. So it's cultural exchange for a month or more.
So it takes no special training.
No, you don't need to be a teacher. You don't. Your English is enough. Your spoken English is enough. And actually, it's celebration. I mean, when you shake an Iraqi hand.
Do they have a lot of dancing and music?
Yes. Yes, we do it privately. Yeah, and Baghdad is open. But where I live, it's kind of conservative, religious city. But believe me, in the institute or the school, you will be surprised how much our women, not men, are open-minded. Yeah. Yes.
So what do you hear about America at your home now? Besides what an asshole the president is.
In generally speaking, Iraqis don't care about America, who runs America, or what's gonna happen to America. Because, as I told you, 35% of them, they are struggling to make $5 a day. They want to survive. They try to get clean water. They try to get enough food and proper education.
Survival.
Right. That's what it is. That's what they want us. I mean, they don't want us to have an opinion or a word about what's going on globally. So kind of, when you be in that situation, you're isolated. Yeah. The Israeli bombing happened last month. Not last month. Yeah, we're in August. And July 19, the first attack. And nobody knows here. So you're isolated, as we are isolated, the people, from what's going on. Yes.
So, we just heard that Lebanon got bombed by the Israelis for having suspected Iranian fighters there. Is that a different story, or is that the same story? And did they? Because at first I thought that was the story, and maybe they changed it up a little bit. But
Well, remember Hezbollah, ones that fought Israelis and sent rockets to Israel, as Hamas does. Israel always bomb any place in the Arab world without responsibility. I mean, no one can ask Israel why Israel is doing that. No, not Europe, not this Western Hemisphere.
you made this sound like a news story, that they found out that they had been bombing Iraq.
Yeah, I mean, Iraq was not within this. See, Israel kept bombing Syria, some sites in Syria, alleging that Israel is bombing some Iranian weapons depot in Syria. In Lebanon is, Hezbollah armed up to its teeth with it. But Lebanon is very close. It's a border, on the borderline with Israel. So Israel doesn't like. There is a kind of tacit agreement between Israel and Hezbollah not to attack each other because it's really serious. So they are waiting. Hezbollah is waiting, but not prevent them from keeping themselves to be armed, whether by Iran or third party. And Israel is continuing. But the survival of Israel is based on wars, continuous war and continuous killing. So there is no way out of the situation. The Israelis, I mean. Because if they lose a war once, that's it for them. While the
Why?
Arabs,
Why?
if they lose a war, once.
Yeah, one more.
If they lose one war, means there is no Israel.
But there's still a military power, huge military power.
The Israeli.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree, but if they lose once,
Yeah.
means Israel defeated. No more Israel. There are 22 Arab countries. They can absorb any loss in any battle. Since the creation of Israel, 1948, the Arabs been absorbing all these wars that Israel is attacking the Arabs with the help of the US and Europe. But once Israelis lose, you see the US is right there to put it back or to, So this is the difference. And it's true, Israel is a tiny country, right?
but lots of money.
And weapon.
Yeah.
But if they lose once, that's it for them. And that's why they keep attacking him, and keep the genie in the bottle. The genie is their end if the genie get out of it. Yes.
Every now and then I see media reports that the Iraqi government started to assert more independence, and that politicians will propose kicking out the U.S. Military bases. Do you see any progress or reason for hope in the Iraqi government?
When Saddam was in power, there was some pact with the Russians, just like the pact that supported Assad with the Russians to bring like 400 SS, that's giant yeah, the missile. Okay, the Iraqis cannot do that because again, they were appointed by Bremer, the same people from 2003 until now. Nobody else came and tried to compete with those group and run for office. None. And they are not allowed. The US won those like Sami and Muri. That's it. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. So does Israel have a role in saying who can run Iraq besides the United States, or is it just the United States?
United States and Israel are one. So when I say Israel, it means United States. When I say Israel, United States is Israel. So the US is run by Zionists. Period. This is one thing. The other thing, Iraqis parliamentarians, the number of the parliamentarians are 300 and I think 25. Half of them visited Israel. Israel is working not only bombing Iraq, but also extending its relationship, political relationship, with the people who are running the country so they can control them and run the country from the inside. And I heard many Israeli officials saying this every night, there is group of Israeli military parade, or what do you call them, not parade, convoys. They run freely in all Arab countries. In Najaf, where I live, there are Israelis, military or in civilian uniform, in Najaf, watching and doing their business without anybody, tension or knowledge. But they are there. I was surprised once, this is years ago, then I learned it. A lawyer, that's a friend of mine, in the courthouse of Najaf, and Najaf, again, as an Iraqi, Arab, conservative, religious city, he said there are 2 Israeli officers running the Najaf courthouse. Believe it or not. So, the jinni, as long as he's in the bottle, you got to believe everything I hear and telling you what's really going on in your life. Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And God bless you. God bless America, my second home, which I really, when I left Iraq, they said, oh, Sami left home. When I come here, Sami come home. So I never leave home.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sami, and thank you all for coming again.